Irma had already forgotten how long she had been working as a street sweeper in the streets of her city. She knew she had started very young, since she was a little girl. Now she had a young son, and it was still the same as then because it was the only thing she knew. The only inheritance her parents had left her was that job. They had died a long time ago and had dedicated their whole lives to the same profession and never motivated Irma to do anything else. She, on the other hand, dreamed for her son Elio a future very different from that one, and she did not know how it would happen, nor how she would make him have other opportunities in life. But she trusted that God's will would be on her side. It was not easy for her because she was alone. Her son's father had abandoned them before he was born, and since then she had had to work until she felt she could not give more, so that her son would not lack the minimum. But as time went by and Elio was growing up, she realized that she needed even more, and every day she was overwhelmed with so much responsibility. Luckily, every day they had something to eat and a roof over their heads. They never lacked anything, but they didn't have much more than that, and she suffered for not being able to offer her son something better. Elio was not a demanding child. On the contrary, he was completely sweet, and despite his age, he seemed to understand the economic distress his mother was going through and never asked for anything. For toys, he was content with those that his mother managed to rescue, among those that other people discarded, but that were still in good condition, and he did not ask for candy or ice cream, even though his mouth watered every time when he saw them in the street. Irma knew that the boy suffered for it, and she was amazed at the level of understanding that her son managed at barely 4 years old. He was truly an amazing and ingenious creature who every day came up with a new thing that made her laugh and that helped her to take off her shoulders all the weight that she had had to bear during the day. She could not have wished for a better companion than her son, for no one in her entire life was able to understand her like he did. Elio was very close to his mom, and even though he spent all day at home, while she worked every night, he would listen to her tell about her day as he fell asleep. However, he had also learned to be independent and stand up for himself, so his mom wouldn't have to worry about him while she worked, as she didn't have the money to pay for a babysitter. Thus, the boy spent the day drawing, playing, and imagining scenarios of fabulous stories in which he was the protagonist. Since he had no television, his imagination was his greatest strength, and like all children, he looked forward to his birthday. Although his mother could not afford to give him big presents, on that day they had breakfast with what he liked the most, and for that meal they had to wait a whole year, which made it even more special. Every year, however, Irma felt that it was not enough, and suffered for not being able to give him something better. But Elio was so good and so understanding that he always calmed his mother down and told her to be calm, that the important thing was that they were together. But that year, Irma was even more anxious, because although she would be able to eat her son's favorite food for breakfast, they would surely not have any for lunch. Luckily, just the days before, the situation improved a little and she didn't have to worry so much, and finally, his longed-for 5th birthday had arrived. Elio was very young, but he was already aware that he could not demand expensive gifts from his mother. When he saw her suffering every day and working to the limit of her strength so that they could eat and have a roof to live under. That is why, when Irma congratulated him and hugged him with all her strength, while apologizing for not being able to give him anything more than a big breakfast, that day the boy did something beautiful that would last in her heart forever. Elio looked at her and told her that he only wanted one thing for his birthday, and that was to spend the whole day with her. And before Irma had time to say anything, he told her that he wanted to accompany her to work, that he wanted to help her. Of course, the boy was still too little to help her in an efficient way by sweeping the streets and picking up the garbage, but for her to have him there filled her heart, and although that had been the gift her son had chosen for his birthday, she always remembered that that day the gift had been from Elio to her. That day, the work that always became monotonous, gray, and sometimes humiliating was the most fun she had in a long time, because her son made endless comments and childish observations that made her day, and Elio also enjoyed spending the whole day with his mother, seeing with his own eyes what the daily routine of work was, served him to admire her even more, and to think about having the means so that she would no longer have to work hard and could have a quiet life. From that day on every birthday, Irma and Elio spent the day together until he was old enough and physically strong enough to tell her that he would stop watching and start working. He was 12 years old at the time and had the strong conviction that he would no longer wait for his mother to be the one to bring everything home. But Irma did not like the idea of him working, at least not the same as she did, because if she wanted her son to progress and have the life she had not been able to, she could not allow him to be typecast like that from such a young age, as they had done with her in her childhood. Thus, Irma forbade her son to work as a street sweeper as well. Instead, she told him to reflect and find something he was passionate about, that only in something that would really catch him and make him feel fulfilled could he then work. Elio accepted the challenge and spent the following months trying to find what he was good at and liked, and when he was about to start thinking that maybe he was not born with any talent or with a special predisposition, something happened, something unexpected. He was then 15 years old and had been chosen to be an extra in an independent film. At that time, he knew nothing about cinema and therefore could not measure the importance of the director with whom he was working. Elio turned out to be a natural actor, and his role in that film, although very small, opened the doors to more and more film and television productions until his first starring role came 5 years later. By then, he could not imagine himself doing anything else in life but acting, and when he also became a protagonist, he realized that the time had finally come to fulfill his childhood dream, to give his mother the life she deserved, without having to worry about money again. And so, little by little, he bought her a house and made sure that she would never want for anything. Irma did not feel comfortable receiving money from her son, until he made her understand that he did it with all the love in the world, just as she had done with him for so many years, and that now he could be the one to take care of everything. She would not reject him. In the end, they came to the agreement that she would have her own business at home, because at her age she was no longer able to live idle. So she kept a small store until the last of her days, and never ceased to be proud every day of the wonderful son that God had given her. She was grateful for him and for every single thing that had to happen in his life to get to this moment where she could see him fulfill dreams and be successful and happy. There was no greater reward for her life than that, and for that she was satisfied. Elio was attentive to his mother until the last of her days, and never stopped honoring her memory, or saying that the best birthdays he had ever had in his life had been those in his childhood, when he spent the whole day with his mother being happy. If you liked this story, like and share it with your friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.